And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. You're tuned in to Tapped Out. Hosted by Brendan Tobin and Sean Levine. Only on the BetQL network.
All right, to keep you updated on UFC Fight Night, we've got 3 fights left and then the main event. I should say 2 fights in the main event. Welcome back into Tapped Out here on the BetQL network. Austin Lingo and Nate the Train Landwehr are making the walk right now. BT, I was all excited to lay my money down on Nate by knockout, and I can only get plus 150 on him. What do you think? What are the chances he wins by sub? Plus 900? Worth laying down a few bucks at BetMGM?
I think you're getting greedy, dude.
Am I? I'm going to do it. Let me do it real quick. Live here on the radio. 15 pays. Yeah, that's fine. 115 the old account. All right, we got Nate the Train by knockout, and then we've got Holly Holm coming up next in the co-main event. She's taking on Yana Santos right now. You can get Holly Holm at minus 250. Santos on the comeback, almost 2-1 at plus 190. And then your final thoughts on the main event real quick. Marlon Chito Vera versus Corey Sandhagen. This is a banger, man. Like, I know that it feels like the last month and a half, we've been treated to some really good fights, whether it's main events or co-mains or pay-per-views. This is a fighter's fight, man. Like, I love this fight. Can't wait for it. Wouldn't be surprised if Sandhagen wins. Obviously, he can beat you in a million ways. I'm surprised Chito Vera is the underdog. I think that they come out looking a lot like we saw last Saturday night with Fiziev and Justin Gaethje, where it's 2 bulls meeting in the middle of the octagon. Chito Vera throws wild at times. Then again, so does Corey Sandhagen. I'm taking Chito Vera. And I'm taking Chito Vera inside the distance. That's my play tonight. What say you?
I like it, man. I think he's going to there's just something about Chito, right? Like, it just feels very much like this guy is on some kind of a magical run ever since winning O'Malley. And everybody's just like, oh, this is supposed to be the sugar show. And he gets the win and kind of gets his, a guy who's been in the UFC for a while. Like, all of a sudden he's getting shine, and it just feels like he's just in that mode right now. And yeah, I feel like you talk about 2 guys who are wild, even though Sandhagen, I don't believe, has ever been knocked out. Chito feels like the guy who could pull that off because he has some pretty brutal hits. He finds a way to get that leg kick, even in awkward spots when guys are tilting. So, as you may say, like it's maybe you're throwing way too much of a long shot out there because of how much of a streak he's been on with that. But I don't know, man. I think that this guy has a little bit of destiny written all over him. He doesn't feel like he'd be denied. It's an impossible guy not to root for either. Nothing against Corey Sandhagen. He's cool, but like just Chito Vera getting his path to the title. I really, really want to see this guy in a championship fight.
And when he was supposed to come on the show, we had a bad line with him, and he called us back like 7 different times before he finally said,
he is a good dude.
So we love some Chito Vera. Great dude. Look good in that Spurs jersey. Obviously, the fight's going down in San Antonio. Super cool tattoos. Love the facial hair.
That also happened with
Underrated
Josh Emmett, too, by the way. That happened with Josh Emmett. Didn't go great for him.
That's fair.
Super nice guy, though. Super nice guy.
Didn't work out quite as well for him. I'm not saying it's a betting trend or anything like that. I'm just pointing out that it did happen. Brendan Tobin, Sports Machine, Sean Levine, tapping out here on the BetQL Network final segment of the show. Yeah, I mean, this fight could end a million different ways. To your point about it took Chito a while after he beat Sean O'Malley because Sean was already on the come up and people knew who he was and he was a big favorite. And then Chito won that fight, and then Sean discredited him and still does to this day afterwards. That it took people for a while to go, okay, that guy's legit. That win was legit. And then he just kept racking up wins. If you're able to take out Corey Sandhagen, they can't really say anything about you. So it does feel like it's a big one tonight for the career and the image of one Chito Vera. Looking forward to the last 3 fights on that card. And I would be thrilled if somehow my boy Nate the Train can pull off the 10-1 submission coming up here right now. Let's get into some news and notes, and then we'll look ahead to UFC 287, the next pay-per-view coming up. Raul Rosas Jr., how old's that guy? He just turned, 11? 12?
He's young. I think he's still 18.
18 years old, Raul Rosas Jr. Fighting in 2 weeks. Looking forward to that one. It feels like he's a guy that he's just a couple of fights away from getting in the big fights, even though he's as young as he is.
Yeah, although I'm a little worried about being placed on this big of a spotlight early. Like, you're going to be on this big time pay-per-view card at the age that he's at, and you're opening up the pay-per-view. I mean, like it's great
spot.
for him.
Perfect
Don't get me
spot.
wrong. It's a great spot, but like this is mixed martial arts, and a lot of the times you're going up there and maybe somebody's just got a little bit. Reminds me like Aaron Pico back in the day with Bellator, where he was going to burst on the scene at MSG and just went badly for him that first time. Now Rosas has already didn't go great, but now Rosas has gotten his debut under his belt. He's got, I think, what is he, 6-0, 7-0 now already. So look, this kid, he is. I've gotten a chance to interview him too. He's got all the big dreams and all that stuff. Like he's got a swagger about him, but man, it feels like a lot of pressure on him.
We talked about Holly Holm getting a new 6-fight deal earlier this week. Paulo Costa also got a new deal from the promotion. He's one of those guys, like, you either love him or hate him. You know who he reminds me of, fight-wise? Johnny Walker. For a minute, I had such high hopes for him. And then as soon as he lost a couple of fights, I jumped completely off the bandwagon, and now I don't really know how to feel about either one of those guys. Where are you when it comes to Paulo Costa?
A little bit like you. I think that he's had some he's had some weird performances for sure. He's had some weird excuses for why he's lost. Like, I've gotten drunk before my championship fight.
Secret juice.
Missed weight by a whole hell of a lot when he took on Vettori. The fight with Luke Rockhold, all very, very weird. So, yeah, I think that he looks like he should have the whole package as far as being a star in the sport. He's got a good personality. He's a bit of the rare bad guy, but he has this incredible body at 185 pounds. Like, he's right there with Pereira as far as, like, how the hell does this guy make that weight? Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But I don't think I'm not kicking dirt on his career yet. I still think that he's got time to bounce back, especially with Izzy. If Izzy doesn't have the belt, I think he can kind of get back in there and revamp things.
Did you hear the train horn? Yes, that wasn't sound effects.
Dude.
That's Nate. That's Nate the Train about to come down the tracks and win this fight by submission. Cody Garbrandt hinting at a rematch against Dominic Cruz in July. Does that pique your interest at all?
Yeah, definitely. Great story. Maybe the best performance of his career.
For sure.
So I think there's going to be, and I think for Dom, Dom can, play that mental warfare with him. Like, this is the best you've ever been, was having a good night against me, and you couldn't finish me. So, yeah, I think that I honestly, there's not a lot of Cody Garbrandt fights that would interest me more than that. So definitely have interest in those guys running it back.
I think that was as dominant of a performance against a great, you talk about it's the best performance we've seen from Cody. I think it's one of the maybe like 10, 15 cleanest fights that we've ever seen against a champion like that. That was unbelievable. Dude, he was pop locking, dropping in the middle of the fight. It was incredible. Let's look ahead to UFC 287. We've been talking about this a little bit. Your guys, I should say, Gilbert Burns, who also resides down in Miami, takes on one Jorge Masvidal. The odds that I'm looking at on BetMGM tell me that you are borderline insane, or maybe you've been drinking some of that Paulo Costa Secret Juice. I don't know what's going on, to think that Masvidal has a chance to win this fight. That being said, I'm going to put some money down on it. I agree with you. The odds are too good to pass up. It is.
What are you doing?
I'm just saying. Like, he doesn't have a chance to win the fight. It's much. I would say the last time we saw odds like this, and you and I had this conversation where we were basically playing the value, was the Volkanovski versus Islam fight. And to be fair, we put our money on Volkanovski. We lost it, but then we're both texting each other afterwards complaining, hey, we probably should have some more money in our BetMGM accounts because we feel like we got kind of screwed.
Or a guy who's right in this fight, Gilbert against Hamzat. Everybody thought that Gilbert was getting completely disrespected in that fight. And I agree that Gilbert should be the favorite. I think that you probably are safer betting your money on Gilbert Burns that night. I get it. But I don't think there's that big a canyon between these guys. This is not, Gilbert is not a spring chick. He's a guy who's been around. And I think that he's not as good a grappler as the guys that he's taken on. I just think that Jorge has some paths to win. If you told me he was taking on Kamaru Usman again or Colby again, I see that being a problem. But I think that Gilbert, he can keep him up and keep the fight in his playpen a little bit. It's a 3-round fight. he can kind of go balls to the wall a little bit. He hasn't been able to do that for a while. He's been mostly 5 rounders. So, yeah, I just think that the value is there on Jorge that night.
How does he take him out, though? I mean, I think that just to bring you back down to earth a little bit, if Khamzat Chimaev in his prime, right, wasn't able to take out Gilbert Burns, maybe it says more about Gilbert Burns. What's the path for Masvidal to win? An Askren flying knee, a Darren Till right cross? Like, I'm not sure that – I'm just trying to tell you, I'm not sure that he's still that guy. I know that hurts, but I'm not sure that Masvidal's still that guy.
Maybe he's not, and I don't even think that he knows. I think that he's been pretty honest with that. I think that he realizes that if he loses this, it might be over for him, dude. I don't know, but I do think that you ask how can he win? Like you look at Khamzat. Yeah, Khamzat is not the striker that Jorge Masvidal is. He was able to keep that fight on the feet. You got to win 2 rounds. If you're telling me Jorge Masvidal can't win 2 rounds against Gilbert Burns, I don't think that's that great. I'm not saying that he's going to knock him out. I think you're talking about 2 really durable guys here. Not been knocked out or stopped very much in their career. So yeah, for me, I just think that for Jorge to be at that line, I'm gonna ride with Gamebred that night. If this was a little bit more of a respectable line, maybe, yeah, it's fine. But I'm not like you bastards with your heart insurance, Like this is how you guys roll with. Oh, I bet on. I'm Jake. I bet on the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, even though I'm an Eagles fan. Like I could never do that. And this is weird for me because yeah, I do like both of these guys. These guys are both very cool. As down to earth as it can get. Have always been cool, but. I just think that I look at that number. I'm like, yeah, Jorge, that fat and odds. I think I'm going to play that in a 3-round fight. If it was just a 5-round fight, I'd probably be a little bit more wary about it. But a 3-rounder in his hometown, going to be juiced up like that. I don't know, man. I think judges, all that stuff. I think I'm leaning Gamebred.
All right. Well, it's probably going to upset you when I tell you that I'm going to put a little bit of money on Pereira by knockout. And then sprinkle a little bit of change on Israel Adesanya by decision. Play both sides. For Jake Noaker and Brendan Tobin and our guest, I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine. Enjoy the fights. We'll talk to you next Saturday night. You're locked into the BetQL network. Good night.